What is up, fellas? It is your boy Turk here at SGN Hub, bringing you another Destiny 2 video, and today we are actually talking about an SMG that I mentioned quite a long time ago, and I made a video about it. I could potentially post a link in the description, but I don't know, I mean, it may or may not be worth it. And this is going to be an SMG that you more than likely have in your vault, and that's going to be the Manticore. This is an exotic 900 RPM SMG that has been extremely slept on this season. And I feel like the main reason for that is probably due to the fact that the Barrow Dyad came out, and it kind of leaves a little bit less conjecture and information to be had about it. But I think this weapon is debatably more useful, or at least for solo content, and it has a lot of great synergies with the artifact mod this season. So without further ado, let's just talk about this real quick. And like I said, I will keep it relatively brief because I have made another video on it, but I am not seeing any buzz at all for this weapon this season. So first and foremost, like I said, it is a 900 RPM Void SMG, and the exotic trait is as follows. It's called Swooping Talons. Dealing damage while airborne increases this weapon's damage output. So essentially what you're getting is something that is similar to target lock for free as an exotic trait, and the exotic catalyst only furthers the utility of this weapon. So not only is this obviously going to be a great pairing for the Peacekeepers, which is the assumption that we're going under, that you're going to be using this with Peacekeepers, but I think it could be extremely useful with other subclasses as well, just given the fact that the damage output does ramp up pretty well whenever you are using that Swooping Talons. Now, for the catalyst, called Flying Monster, which is a really interesting name for a catalyst, reads as follows. While you are airborne, sustain damage and final blows with this weapon to difficult combatants, grant an overshield, reduce combatant accuracy, and also return ammo to the magazine. So we're essentially getting 3 perks in one. One of them being a rewind rounds-esque perk where, if I'm not mistaken, it seems like it's returning 12 to the mag. I don't know how many shots you have to hit in order to return the 12, but it is a pretty ammo efficient rewind rounds exotic trait in a way. You're getting a pretty fair amount of ammo back as you're shooting and doing damage. Also, you're obviously getting the Void Overshield from either dealing consistent damage or taking out targets, and also reducing combatant accuracy. And if I'm not mistaken, the combatant accuracy reduction works very similar to, I think, how Amplified works, or, you know, whenever enemies they're having a hard time seeing you. So you're a little bit more difficult to shoot while you are flying around, and, you know, you have this Overshield already, you have the extra damage, so it only just furthers the control that you kind of get on the battlefield with this weapon itself. Now, even though we don't have a SMG champion mod this season, I wouldn't let that fool you into assuming that it's not something that you can actually use against champions. So it's extremely easy right now to actually get volatile rounds on a void weapon, especially one that you're going to be dumping a lot of rounds down range. And I think that's what gives the Manticore a pretty good edge in endgame content, or just master law sectors, or anything along those lines, where you may not have that champion mod, but if it's anti-barrier, you still will be able to achieve that. And the way that we're able to do that this season is going to be with the Tablet of Ruin, and it's called Volatile Marksman. Rapid Void Weapon Precision Hits and Rapid Void Weapon Final Blows grant volatile rounds. So we have that on top of our subclass fragment that will allow us to get volatile rounds with a kill via arc grenade as well. So we have 2 ways to access volatile rounds, and it makes this thing absolutely a monster. You're putting out way more damage, I think, than people are realizing, at least from a primary. I would argue that this very well could potentially be one of the highest damage primaries. I haven't had time to do the damage testing, but I feel like it kind of speaks for itself. Whenever you're in a master law sector, whether it be like 12 or 8 light level down, and you are able to essentially one mag a anti-barrier champion, you know, even potentially with bolt charge off. I know we have the defibrillating blast, stunning a champion grants max stacks of bolt charge, so you do get a big chunk of damage whenever you are able to stun an anti-barrier champion with it. But I do believe that even without this off, you would still be able to one mag with the Manticore and the volatile rounds, just because of how much damage it's doing. The ramp up of the damage for that target lock-esque mod on it, it's absolutely insane. So you don't necessarily need champion mods when you're chunking ads and weakening mages with volatile procs every few seconds. It's just honestly comes together so well this season. And I think, like I said, it's getting slept on really hard because the Barrow Dyad did come out. This one offers an extremely unique playstyle that I'd really like to see a lot more players getting into, simply because I know it was a seasonal weapon. I can't remember how many seasons ago, but it had a really underwhelming release, and it just started being good whenever they you know, kind of gave it a little bit of buff not too long ago. I think they changed the Swooping Towns, or I know they changed something with the Manticore, but it essentially got buffed whenever Peacekeepers, you know, got its change. It really came into its light a lot better. And I can only recommend this even more. Now, I'm not going to dive into a crazy build with this, but I will just discuss a couple things. And if you have certain weapons like I do, like the rake angle, you're actually able to take out unstoppable champions and overload champions and easily deal with anti-barrier champions with Manticore. And whenever you proc the Volatile Rounds with the Manticore, it actually allows you to get that on your heavy slot, and that's going to add a little bit more DPS to whatever your DPS phase is if you are rocking either Edge Transit or something like, maybe a Braytech Osprey, or I forget exactly what there's a Void 3-tap linear, which could be good with particle deconstruction this season. But I just stuck with another Void weapon so I could kind of stack up on the Void Surges. I have the Recoup mod in the final slot there. You don't necessarily have to. And I guess I could quickly go over why this synergizes so well with the Peacekeepers, and that's really not much more I could say about it. But the Peacekeepers were given an extremely good buff, in my opinion, for PvE. Which states as follows. Obviously, we had the while wielding a submachine gun, handling, airborne effectiveness and movement are all improved, and damage against combatants will increase the longer you remain on target. So basically, 2 instances of target lock being used at the same time with the Manticore and Peacekeepers, and that's what really makes it do a lot of the damage. If you have this weapon in your vault, I highly recommend it. I know a lot of people haven't been too fond of it, but it does offer a completely unique playstyle. You'll be able to hover around, control the battlefield, and do a very respectable amount of damage with primary ammo. I feel like this is definitely going to be a staple of my subclasses and something that I'm using a lot, tell you the truth. So yeah, it might not have the flashiest reputation, a champion mod label slapped on it, but the Manticore is absolutely cooking this season. I highly recommend that you pull it out and pair it with your favorite Void build or just the Peacekeepers themselves, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. If you're already running a Void subclass or rocking artifact perks that, boost the uptime on Volatile Rounds, I would absolutely give the Manticore a try. Let me know how it performs for you in the comments, and if you're new here, hit that sub button for more underrated weapon breakdowns every chance that I have to put them up. But with that being said, it's been your boy Turk here at SGN. Hopefully you folks have a good day, and peace.